What's the biggest scam you ever fell for?
So back in November of 2019 BC, before COVID, I had gotten accepted into college for a second time. And while I've always thought about moving out and living on my own, I felt that at this time the circumstances were perfect for me. It was time to go. So I go to Google and I search up affordable apartments for rent in Toronto. And I found a listing for a bachelor apartment in Toronto for $700 a month. And that should have been my first red flag, because in Toronto, you will never find an apartment for $700 a month. Bachelor, basement, one bedroom, you won't find it. It's unheard of. But here I am thinking that I hit the jackpot. I found a gem. So I email the person who posted the apartment. They emailed me back. They asked me some interview questions. I answered them. They asked for a reference. I sent them my Airbnb review from when I went out to LA and stayed there for like a week earlier in the year. That would have never worked in any kind of rental agreement conversation, but apparently it was enough for him. And he agreed to take me on. So I'm all hype. I'm excited because I'm about to live on my own. $700 a month for an apartment in Toronto. You know what I'm saying? The pictures of the apartment look really good. I'm about to be my own man. I'm about to do this. So he emails me the rental agreement. I signed the rental agreement. But before I sent the signed rental agreement over to him, as well as, along with the first and last month rent and the bankroll information, stuff like that, a little voice in my head was going, this might be a little too good to be true. You need to see the apartment for real. So I email him back saying, hey, before I send you over the signed agreements, they're all signed and everything, can I please see the apartment? Can I get a tour? He responds with an excuse about his sister being sick or whatever. So I'm like, okay, we'll reschedule. I email him again. He gives me another excuse. So as I'm looking at the email, I noticed that the name and the email address are very different. His name is Akamura Apollo, but the email address is BallerJ705 or something like that. So I go to Google again and I search up Akamura Apollo, and it turns out Akamura Apollo is a visual artist, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's a photographer. And on his Instagram and his website, specifically it says, I do not rent out properties. So I'm like, oh. So I search up the email address, the BallerJ whatever, and it turns out this email address is associated with a whole bunch of rent scams and everything. I found forums about it. So needless to say, I withdrew my application. But he almost got me. I almost got scammed. He almost got me. I